Inside Racing is brought to you by Dunlop.
Welcome back to Inside Racing. Coming up, Sir Stirling Moss and the old days. Now in grip, wet weather tyres, how high speeds are maintained on the track. When the heavens open during a race weekend and it simply pours down, racing becomes impossible without a special kind of tyre. Wets. But how do racing cars achieve such high speeds despite the drenched surface? What makes wets so good that the slicks have to come off and they have to go on? Slicks have no tread, so can't push the water away. A cushion of water forms, lifting up both tyre and car, and contact with the surface below is lost. A phenomenon known as aquaplaning. How that feels is described for us by reigning BTCC champion Jason Plato.
Aquaplaning is where the water will just lift the front wheels off the ground. You know, it happens if there's been a lot of rain and there's standing water like puddles. It's not a nice experience. Just lifts the front tyres off the ground so you can't steer. Doesn't happen too often.
To ensure it doesn't happen too often, new tyres have been constantly developed and tested for 50 years, as here on the Dunlop test track. Way back in 1960, Dunlop were already doing in-depth experiments into aquaplaning. These tests showed what, for example, we all know, that at higher speeds a tyre's aquaplaning behavior becomes appreciably worse. They also showed that the water depth, the tyre's width, and the depth of the tyre's tread all play a role in this. As a result of such research, even lightweight single-seater racing cars with wide tyres can achieve top speeds on wet tracks. The fact that handling doesn't suffer unduly in the process is down to the details. The inner contours really cut into the water, forcing it to the outside, where it's then quickly channeled away. Racing driver Patrick Simon tests tyres to the limit under extreme conditions that call on all his driving skill. He knows what wet weather tyres need to have. I need lots of tread and a good structure to the tyre, then my water can be conveyed away and the risk of aquaplaning significantly less. At 100, a wet weather tyre pushes away over 70 litres a second. Contact with the track is maintained. In direct contrast, the slick tyre loses grip much sooner, while the wet weather tyre remains controllable and stays online. What wets also make exciting is the gamble of the tyre change. When's he going to change to which tyres? Why are some cars spinning and skidding while others are already lapping smoothly? The secret lies in the tyre's level of wear. Wet weather tyres have a soft compound that grips well when track temperatures are low, but as the track dries, lateral forces quickly wear down their blocks of tread. After just 2 laps, they start to continually disintegrate.
You can start a race in the rain and obviously it can dry up. It's a real tough call because from a driver's point of view, you have to monitor how fast it is. You have to drive offline to keep the cold water going through the tyre to try and cool the tyre down. And that's the biggest problem really.
Thanks to research and high-tech design, modern wets are the basis for thrilling action and high levels of safety in bad weather. They reach their limits only when it gets dry again. And now in Legends. His career began 60 years ago, and his name is legendary, Sir Stirling Moss. Sir Stirling Crawford Moss, born 1929, a pure English racing driver, one of the most successful in history, a man who thrilled the masses. a man full of ambition, with a drive that is now hard to imagine.
One of the reasons I started in motor racing was because it's dangerous. When you're 17 years old, you know, the idea of doing something that's dangerous, people say, God, you must be brave and all that. I never ever raced with a seatbelt on in my life. I raced because there were pretty girls around.
It was 60 years ago that his career took off. His debut, the Swiss Grand Prix, followed by win after win at Le Mans, in the Mille Miglia, and in Formula One. But what was the highlight for Mr. Motor Racing?
I mean, I did 529 races, and I had so many different types of race, from Formula One, Formula Two, sports cars, touring cars, and so on. But I think probably Monaco in 1961 was one of the highlights, certainly.
He achieved 3 Grand Prix victories in the glamorous Principality, 1956, 60 and 61. He left names like Fangio, Hill and McLaren in his wake.
Monaco circuit is very, very little altered. It is since my time. They built the swimming pool and so on, but in principle you're driving on the roads, you're driving through the tunnel, and the people are really close to you. I mean, you can see them, you can see the girls and everything so close. It's a wonderful atmosphere, and to drive around there, well, now it's not 100 laps, it's less now, but it is something terribly exhilarating. I mean, you're talking of, in my time, 3.5 hours and 14 gear changes every lap. I mean, you know, it's pretty hard work, and it's so emotional. I mean, the whole thing. And at the end, of course, Prince Rainier was there, and Princess Grace when I was driving, and to go up and receive the garland was very emotional.
Dramatic victories, full of fighting spirit. This time, 58 at the Argentinian Grand Prix. Moss in his Cooper T43. A stubborn little guy, determined and fanatical. He drove the race his own way. Unforgettable stories on the Inside Racing stage.
Your most dramatic Cooper victory was the Argentine Grand Prix in 1958.
Yeah.
When it was very hot, when everybody was changing tyres, and the Ferraris were quite happy to let you go ahead because you hadn't made your tyre stop yet, and they were waiting for you to make your tyre stop. Your mechanic, who was in on the plot, actually brought the fresh set of tyres out onto the pit lane, waiting for your tyre stop.
Yeah.
You never stopped.
He kept giving me countdown signals and thumbs up, and that's the yes, and right, next lap, and you know, then of course the Italians got pretty excited when it got near the end. They thought, my God, he's not going to stop. So then they got Musso to go like hell, and by then my tyres were worn out. Now, Dunlop are a great tyre, but I must tell you they do wear out. When you've got a tread and you're spinning it fast, it's lines, and then gradually the lines disappear, and then you've got what effectively a slick. Then and that's going round, and of course you can see them just here and there. Then when that's gone, you get to canvas. Now canvas is white, and so you suddenly see a white patch, and I knew I was in trouble. It wasn't good news. Anyway, they held on till the end.
4 times World Championship runner-up, but never F1 champion. Rewarded instead with an extra helping of self-irony.
Somehow it's more exclusive not to have won it than win it. I mean, there are a lot of drivers out there who've won the title, and I'm quite happy with being one who didn't. You know, a loser.
And if you love your car. That was Inside Racing. Coming up next time, VTCC champion Jason Plato, exclusively here. And motorbike long-distance world champions and their hunger for more. Feel the passion, feel the track with Inside Racing.
3,000 nerve receptors allow us to feel every touch. Through our tires, we can also feel the road. Inside Racing was brought to you by Dunlop.